and it's only going to take us 2 years. The board of directors looks at him and says, okay, it's only going to take us 2 years. Have you talked to these? This is a normal board. What are we going to do about cost overruns, so on and so forth? But we're going to have to look at this and say the board of directors isn't the typical board of directors. It's the board of directors who are our state legislators, the House of Representatives and the senators, who are actually going to be addressing Mitt Romney. So he says to the board of directors, we're going to spend $2.6 billion to remodel. It's only going to take 2 years. Board of directors say, okay, that sounds like a good year. That sounds like a good idea. 5 years go by. 10 years go by. 15 years go by. 20 years goes by. Mitt Romney says to his board of directors, well, the project is done. I'm going to bring it to the shareholders. He goes and addresses the shareholders and says to the shareholders, I want to tell all of you, we've finished the project. Now, the shareholders, which are you, are probably thinking, Mr. and Mrs. Shareholders are saying, well, wasn't that project only supposed to take 2 years? We heard about that 18 years ago. Now, Mitt Romney addresses you, the shareholders, again and says, the project is done. Things aren't too bad. It only took 20 years. But the really good thing is, it cost the company $16 billion. And guess who's going to pay for that? You. Now, you as shareholders, what is your response to it? Well, I think we need to throw this guy in jail. That's what they're doing to us. And then we'll take Mitt Romney on the other hand, and he says, well, you know what? But there is a bright side to this. We're going to bring in an attorney, and we're going to sue the contractors. So he brings in Deval Patrick as our attorney. And Deval Patrick comes back to him and says, Mitt, I made judiciary history. I took care of the problem of the $6 billion overrun, or overcost. I got you back $450 million. Yeah, I heard the snickers from the shareholders. I think the shareholders would be a little more ticked off than that. That's what they did with the big dig. They got you $450 million back, plus a whole bunch of little legal hoopla saying, well, you know what, if you get sued for $100 million, we go to arbitration, and this goes on for a lifetime, so on and so forth. Another example would be if you probably all have heard that the budget just got into the House for discussion, $27.4 billion. So you take another example. Deval Patrick is the, vice president of Texaco, Coca-Cola, HC Capital, he was HCC Corporation. He was their board director. Let's say he goes to the board of all of these companies and says to them, you know what, I have this brilliant idea, it's going to make us a whole lot of money. We've got approximately $19 billion sitting in our revenue fund. I've been to our treasurer, Timothy Cahill. He's told me, well, you know what, Deval, I don't think $19 billion is what you're going to end up with. I think we're going to end up with about 16. You know what, Timothy, forget that. It doesn't really matter. He brings it to the board anyways and says to the board, you know what, here's this idea. It's going to cost us, say $27.3 or $4 billion, but we're only going to take in $16 billion. You know what? We're going to stick the other, $11 billion to the shareholders, and I'll bring the message to them. If the board of executives are sitting there and they're thinking like our Senate and our House, they're saying, you know what? That's a good idea. How come we didn't think of that? So what they do is they go, Deval Patrick goes off from the board meeting, goes to the shareholders and says, you know what? This is what we did, guys. I just cost you $11 billion. What do you think the shareholders are going to do then? They're not going to like it, but he does it to us. The legislators do it to us. It's time to stop it. We need to do something about it. There was a study done the end of March. It was done by Suffolk University and Channel 7 News. They actually said 71% of the voters believe Massachusetts will again become Taxachusetts. Now, here's the brilliant thinking behind our legislators. We'll start with Representative Ruth Basler of Newton. There is a growing support of raising the sales tax. I don't know about you, but I wasn't the one she was talking to at the time. We can spend one more penny on the dollar when it comes time to purchase non-essential items and maintain our police force, fire, and teachers. She also said, we can each pay a penny more on the dollar to prevent cities and towns across the Commonwealth from laying off firefighters, police, and teachers, and we can hold on to that penny and keep that in our pockets. Somebody is not thinking right. As far as I'm concerned, that is considered as extortion. State President or Senate President Teresa Murray told reporters this week, actually it was the week of April 17th, that she was still open to a sales tax. Representative Peter Cocht of Florence says the state could haul in hundreds of millions of dollars should it expand the reach of the sales tax to cover hundreds of services that state residents and businesses rely on every day. We want to do this these people want to do this in a year where the average person is struggling just to make ends meet. The 2010 budget included over 60 different amendments to raise sales taxes. As you know, they raised it went into the House. The House passed the sales tax increase from 5 to 6.25%. And they actually did this rather interestingly. The House Speaker actually went out and lobbied all of the representatives to make it veto-proof. So it ended up being 108 voted yes to 51 who voted no. So I have it for you. So I'm going to pass, you guys can pass it around. And you can see if your legislator was one of the 51s who voted no.